You just sat down at a $100 high-limit slot. The leather chair feels premium, the complimentary drinks flow faster, everything screams VIP treatment. But here's what ex-casino employees are finally exposing. High-limit slots are engineered to be even more brutal than their penny cousins. We're talking about machines with odds that drop as low as 85% while you're betting hundreds per spin. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which premium machines are the biggest traps and why casinos desperately want high rollers to keep playing them. Machine number 10. High-Limit Buffalo Gold. Former slot technicians say High-Limit Buffalo Gold is one of the most deceptive machines in the high-limit room. You are betting $50 to $100 per spin on a game that looks identical to the penny version everyone knows. But insiders say the high-limit model is programmed with a noticeably lower return. The volatility is boosted, the base game hits are smaller, and the bonus that pops up regularly on Penny Buffalo can take hundreds of spins to appear at higher denominations. Former employees say players often go thousands of dollars without seeing a single stampede bonus. And when the bonus finally hits, it usually pays far less than people expect, often barely covering a handful of spins. The screen still roars and flashes just like the original, but the underlying math is much tighter than most players realize. Pit bosses talk about players who switch from Penny Buffalo to high-limit thinking. Bigger bets mean bigger jackpots. One regular made the jump and burned through nearly $30,000 in one evening without landing a meaningful bonus. He kept saying the machine felt familiar, and that is exactly why it works. It looks like the Buffalo you know, but the high-limit version drains money far faster. And speaking of familiar machines that behave very differently, number 9 takes this trick even further. Machine number 9. Lightning Link $25 denomination. Lightning Link at the $25 denomination is what former casino employees call a mirage machine. It looks electric, exciting, and full of near misses. But insiders say the high-limit version plays much tighter than the penny and dollar versions. You are betting heavy amounts every spin, yet the return is noticeably lower, and the bonuses take far longer to appear. The hold and spin feature that pops fairly often on the lower denominations becomes much rarer in high limit, sometimes requiring hundreds of spins before it appears. And when it finally does hit, former technicians say it usually awards only a few orbs, far fewer than players expect from a high-limit machine. Slot attendants talk about players who kept notebooks trying to figure out when the grand jackpot might drop. One regular spent months chasing it and lost well into six figures, only to discover his biggest bonus barely covered a short session of play. The game constantly teases one or two missing orbs, keeping players believing they are close, when statistically they are nowhere near it. Former employees say the entire design is built around that illusion. And if Lightning Link feels manipulative, wait until you hear what insiders say about Dragon Link. Machine number 8. Dragon Link $10 to $25 denomination. Former casino executives say high-limit Dragon Link creates what they call the fireball frenzy effect. Those glowing orbs drop in just enough to make players think a huge bonus is right around the corner. But insiders warn that the high-limit versions run much tighter than the penny versions. The return is lower, the bonuses appear far less often, and players can pour in thousands without seeing any meaningful features. The hold and spin bonus that appears fairly often on Penny Dragon Link becomes surprisingly rare in high-limit play, sometimes taking a few hundred spins before appearing. And when it finally hits, former technicians say it often awards only a small handful of fireballs, nothing close to the big fills you see on social media. Employees talk about regulars who kept chasing that one huge moment for months. One businessman played $25 Dragon Link every weekend and watched his bankroll shrink session after session, with his biggest bonus barely covering a fraction of what he invested. The animations and sound effects make every spin feel hot, but insiders say the math underneath is far colder than it appears. And the classic 3-reel machines in our next entry use a quieter version of the same trick. Machine number 7. Top Dollar High Limit. Top Dollar used to be the king of high-limit rooms in Old Vegas. Former employees who worked through the 90s remember when these machines actually gave players a fighting chance, often running at noticeably higher returns than today. but the modern high-limit versions are much tighter. The bonus features show up far less often, and the multipliers that once made the game famous have been dramatically toned down. The try again feature that old school players loved can now take dozens and dozens of spins to appear, even when you are betting $100 each time. And when it does show up, former technicians say most offers fall in the low range, nowhere near the big hits players remember from decades ago. Slot managers talk about longtime regulars sitting down expecting the generous top dollar of the 90s. One player who had been loyal to the game for decades lost a huge amount in a single weekend and kept insisting something felt different. He was right. The cabinet and sounds are the same, but the internal math has been completely updated to favor the house. Former employees say it is one of the smartest illusions in the high-limit room. And the classic machines in our next entry pull the same trick even more subtly. Machine number 6. Triple Double Diamond, $25. Former slot technicians call Triple Double Diamond the submarine because it sinks bankrolls slowly, almost without players realizing it. It looks like a fair, old-school three-reel machine, and the steady small hits create the feeling of constant action. But insiders say those small wins are exactly how the game keeps you spinning while quietly draining your balance. Players get tiny payouts every few spins, usually far smaller than the amount they are betting. You win a little, lose a little, and the machine makes it feel like you are holding steady, even though the long-term math pushes you slowly downward. The big triple diamond hits almost never appear, yet the game teases you just enough to make you believe you might be close. Pit bosses talk about players who spent entire shifts at these machines convinced they were getting solid play because the reels kept lighting up. One regular said the machine felt completely fair until he checked his balance and realized his entire weekend bankroll had vanished. Former employees say that is exactly how the game is designed. It uses constant micro rewards to disguise one of the tightest returns in the high-limit room. And speaking of recognizable names that disappoint, number 5 is one of the biggest traps of all. Machine number 5, Wheel of Fortune High Limit. Wheel of Fortune High Limit is what former casino employees call the ultimate disappointment machine. You are betting huge amounts every spin for the chance to trigger that iconic wheel. But insiders say the wheel appears far less often than players expect. It is common for people to go through thousands of dollars without seeing the feature even once. And when the wheel finally shows up, former technicians say it usually lands on the smallest slices. Players spend all night chasing that moment only to watch the wheel stop on low numbers again and again. There is also a special envelope feature that can award the wheel randomly. But former employees say most players will never see it. Slot attendants talk about regulars who spend entire weekends trying to hit something meaningful on this machine. One restaurant owner bet $500 a spin and walked away with only a couple of wheel spins, both paying far less than he invested. The familiar brand and big sound package draw people in, but insiders warn it is one of the tightest machines in the high-limit room. And somehow, the next game is even more deceptive. Machine number 4, Huff and Puff, High Denomination. Huff and Puff looks fun and cheerful, with its fairy tale theme, but former casino executives say it is one of the most expensive slots you can play at high limits. The game is built around collecting symbols to blow down houses and reach the full board bonus, but insiders say that bonus can take an extremely long time to reach in the high-limit room. Players often spin for hours thinking they are getting closer, yet former employees say the smaller house bonuses along the way barely cover a few spins. They create the feeling of progress, but they do not make up for the steady drain on your bankroll. Even the full board bonus, which sounds like a major moment, often pays far less than players expect once it finally arrives. Technicians talk about players who became obsessed with the idea of getting one perfect full board hit. One tech executive played the game week after week and lost a massive amount chasing that moment. He hit the full board once, and it returned only a fraction of what he had invested over months. The cheerful pigs and blowing houses create the illusion of progress, but former employees say it is one of the most misleading games in the high-limit room. And number 3 shows that even beloved classics are not safe. Machine number 3, Cleopatra High Limit. Cleopatra High Limit carries 30 years of nostalgia, and former casino employees say older players still seek it out thinking it will play like the original. But the modern high limit version is nothing like the classic. The return is lower, the bonus frequency is dramatically reduced, and the once generous free spins now appear far less often. The famous free spin round can take hundreds of spins to appear, even at high bet levels. And when it finally triggers, former technicians say many bonuses pay only modest amounts because the game rarely delivers more than a few strong hits during the feature. The triple multiplier sounds exciting, but the bonus often ends up feeling flat. Slot attendants talk about long stretches where the machine barely pays anything at all, something they call the Cleopatra dead zone. One regular kept detailed notes of her sessions and was shocked by how much she lost, chasing the version of Cleopatra she remembered from years past. The Egyptian theme and familiar sounds make it feel like the same game, but insiders say the modern high-limit version is far harsher underneath. And believe it or not, number 2 is even tougher. Machine number 2, Megabucks High Limit Megabucks. High Limit might be the most unforgiving machine in the entire casino. Former executives say the return on this game is among the lowest allowed, but the enormous jackpot display keeps players coming back. You are betting huge amounts every spin for a prize that almost no one will ever see. Many players convince themselves the jackpot could drop at any moment, and that belief keeps them spinning long after they planned to stop. Former employees say the regular prizes are surprisingly small, often not enough to make up for more than a couple of spins. Most people walk away with nothing, yet the jackpot meter rising above them makes them believe they are getting closer to a life-changing hit. Technicians share countless stories of players who spent months or even years chasing megabucks and losing staggering amounts in the process. One lottery winner lost his entire fortune trying to hit the top prize. He never even saw one of the mid-tier payouts people assume will show up eventually. The jackpot display creates what experts call probability blindness. Players see millions on the screen and forget how harsh the machine really is. And believe it or not, number 1 takes this psychological trick even further. Machine number 1. High-limit quick-hit machines. Former casino employees unanimously agree that high-limit quick-hit machines are the ultimate bankroll destroyer. These games are designed to make you feel like you are winning constantly, even while your balance is dropping fast. You are betting $50 to $200 per spin, yet most of the hits are far smaller than your wager. The big, progressive feature that everyone chases appears much less often than people think. And when it does show up, former technicians say the machine usually awards one of the smallest prizes. The game flashes like you just won something huge, but the payout rarely makes up for the cost of chasing it. The constant bells, mini wins, and flashing lights keep your adrenaline up while your bankroll fades quietly behind the scenes. Pit bosses talk about quick-hit players burning through their bankrolls faster than on almost any other high-limit machine. One player sat for an entire session hearing constant winning sounds and walked away with nothing, realizing too late that the hits were tiny compared to his bets. Former employees say the machine is engineered to make losing feel like winning, using non-stop stimulation to disguise one of the harshest returns in the casino. It is psychological manipulation disguised as entertainment.